Thank you for tuning in. You are listening to Book Summary of Atomic Habits by James Clear. The narration is brought to you by The Whispering Shelf. Introduction. The Power of Small Changes. The book presents a revolutionary framework for understanding how tiny, incremental improvements compound into extraordinary results over time. The crucial insight here is that real change does not come from massive transformation, but from the accumulation of small, consistent decisions repeated every single day. James Clear's personal journey forms the foundation of this work. At 17, he suffered a devastating baseball injury, struck in the face with a bat during his sophomore year of high school. The impact was catastrophic. His nose was crushed into a U-shape. He sustained multiple skull fractures, shattered eye sockets, and a severe concussion that left him in a medically induced coma. When he awoke, he had lost his sense of smell, his eyeball protruded from its socket, and his vision remained double for weeks. Recovery was painfully slow, requiring 8 months before he could even drive again. Yet here is the remarkable part. 6 years after that life-altering injury, James Clear was named the top male athlete at Denison University, earned a spot on the ESPN Academic All-America team, an honor given to only 33 students nationwide, and graduated having set 8 school records. This transformation was not the result of one dramatic decision. It was the product of hundreds of small habits stacked upon one another, each contributing just 1% improvement. His recovery teaches us the most important lesson of this book. Small changes compound into remarkable results when you're willing to stick with them. The story of British cycling further illustrates this principle. In 2003, Dave Brailsford became the performance director of British Cycling, an organization that had endured nearly 100 years of mediocrity. Since 1908, British riders had won only a single Olympic gold medal and not a single Tour de France victory in 110 years. European bike manufacturers refused to sell equipment to the British team, fearing it would damage their reputation. Brailsford's philosophy was revolutionary in its simplicity, the aggregation of marginal gains. The idea was elegantly straightforward. If you broke down everything that goes into riding a bike and improved each element by just 1%, the cumulative effect would be dramatic. His team began improving bike seats for comfort, testing tire compounds for better grip, optimizing mattresses and pillows for sleep quality, hiring a surgeon to teach riders the best hand-washing technique, and even painting the team truck white to spot dust particles that could degrade bike performance. Within 5 years, the results were staggering. At the 2008 Beijing Olympics, the British cycling team won 60% of available gold medals. By 2017, they had accumulated 178 world championships, 66 Olympic and Paralympic gold medals, and an unprecedented 5 Tour de France victories in 6 years. A point worth remembering: this extraordinary success came not from one brilliant innovation, but from hundreds of small optimizations compounded over time. The fundamentals, understanding why small habits matter. The mathematical reality of compound improvement is stunning. If you can improve yourself by just 1% every single day for 1 year, you'll end up approximately 37 times better by the year's end. The visual representation of this principle shows that the effects of small habits compound over time in exponential rather than linear fashion. Conversely, if you decline by 1% daily for a year, you'll diminish to nearly zero. Habits are the compound interest of self-improvement. Just as money multiplies through compound interest in a savings account, the effects of your habits multiply exponentially as you repeat them. On any given day, a 1% improvement seems insignificant, barely noticeable, but when viewed through the lens of months and years, this becomes the difference between extraordinary success and mediocrity. The airplane analogy is particularly powerful here. Imagine a pilot flying from Los Angeles to New York City. If that pilot adjusts the heading by just 3½ degrees to the south, the aircraft will arrive in Washington, D.C., instead of New York. At takeoff, this slight change is imperceptible. The nose of the airplane moves only a few feet, yet magnified across the entire distance of the continental United States. This small deviation results in hundreds of miles of separation. Your daily habits operate identically. A slight change in your behavior today guides you toward a dramatically different destination over time. This principle carries profound implications. Your outcomes are lagging measures of your habits. Your net worth is simply a lagging measure of your financial habits. Your weight is a lagging measure of your eating habits. Your knowledge is a lagging measure of your learning habits. Your cluttered home is a lagging measure of your cleaning habits. You get precisely what you repeat, nothing more and nothing less. The trajectory principle is crucial to understand. What matters most is not your current results, but your current trajectory. A millionaire who spends more than he earns is on a bad trajectory, destined for financial difficulty. Someone broke who saves a small amount monthly is on a path toward financial freedom. Time magnifies the margin between success and failure. It will multiply whatever you feed it. Good habits make time your ally. Bad habits make time your enemy. The concept of compounding applies in both directions. On the positive side, productivity compounds. Each extra task mastered frees your mind for higher level work. Knowledge compounds. Each book read opens new ways of thinking about old ideas. As Warren Buffett noted, that's how knowledge works. It builds up, like compound interest. Relationships compound. The more you help others, the more they naturally want to help you. Being slightly kinder in each interaction creates networks of broad and strong connections over years. Yet the negative side is equally powerful. Stress compounds. Frustration from traffic, parenting worries, financial strain, and health concerns seem manageable individually, yet persist for years and crystallize into serious illness. Negative thoughts compound. The more you think of yourself as worthless or stupid, the more you condition your mind to interpret life that way, creating thought loops that trap you. Outrage compounds. Social movements are rarely caused by single events, but rather accumulate from microaggressions and daily frustrations until one final incident ignites widespread upheaval. The crucial insight here is that habits are a double-edged sword. They can work powerfully for you or devastatingly against you, which is why understanding the details is essential. The plateau of latent potential. Consider an ice cube sitting on a table in a cold room at 25 degrees Fahrenheit. As the temperature slowly rises, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31 degrees, nothing visible happens. The ice cube remains frozen, unchanged, unmoved. Then, at 32 degrees, the ice begins to melt. A 1-degree shift seemingly identical to all the previous increases unlocks enormous change. This principle manifests throughout nature. Cancer spends 80% of its life undetectable within the body before rapidly overwhelming it in months. Bamboo appears to make virtually no progress for the first 5 years as it builds extensive root systems underground, then suddenly explodes 90 feet into the air within 6 weeks. Geological pressure builds between tectonic plates for millions of years in silence. Then suddenly one tremor is identical to countless others triggers a massive earthquake. The plateau of latent potential is where most people abandon their habits. In the early stages of any improvement journey, there exists what Clear calls the valley of disappointment. You expect progress to arrive linearly, and you're frustrated when changes seem utterly ineffective for days, weeks, even months. It feels like you're making no progress whatsoever. A point worth remembering. Your work during this plateau is not wasted. It's simply being stored, accumulating beneath the surface where you cannot see it. People typically make a few small changes, fail to see tangible results within days or weeks, and decide to quit. You tell yourself, I've been running every day for a month. Why haven't I lost any weight? I must be doing something wrong. In truth, all the work you're doing is building the foundation. The plateau is not a sign of failure. It's a sign that the breakthrough is coming. The San Antonio Spurs, one of basketball's most successful franchises, display a quote from social reformer Jacob Riis in their locker room. "When nothing seems to help, I go and look at a stonecutter hammering away at his rock, perhaps 100 times without as much as a crack showing in it. Yet at the 101st blow it will split in two. And I know it was not that last blow that did it, but all that had gone before." When you finally break through the plateau of latent potential, people will call it an overnight success. They see only the visible breakthrough, not the months or years of accumulation that made it possible. The outside world witnesses the dramatic event while remaining ignorant of all that preceded it, but you know the truth. It's the work you did long ago, when it seemed you weren't making any progress, that makes today's breakthrough possible. Systems over goals, the real path to results. The prevailing wisdom suggests that achieving your dreams requires setting specific, measurable goals. Yet this approach contains a critical flaw, a point worth remembering. Winners and losers often share the exact same goals. Every Olympic athlete wants to win a gold medal. Every job candidate wants to get hired. If successful and unsuccessful people both had the goal to win the Tour de France, then the goal itself cannot be what differentiates winners from losers. The goal was always there. What changed was the system. This insight comes from Scott Adams, creator of the Dilbert comic strip. Goals are about the results you want to achieve. Systems are about the processes that lead to those results. A basketball coach's goal is to win a championship, but his system is how he recruits players, manages assistant coaches, and conducts practices. An entrepreneur's goal is to build $1 million business, but her system is how she tests product ideas, hires employees, and runs marketing campaigns. A musician's goal is to play a new piece perfectly, but his system is how often he practices, how he breaks down difficult passages, and the feedback he receives from his instructor. Here's the crucial question. If you completely ignored your goals and focused only on your system, would you still succeed? The answer is almost certainly yes. If you were a basketball coach and ignored your championship goal while focusing only on what your team does at practice each day, you would likely still achieve excellent results. 3-time Super Bowl winner Bill Walsh famously said, "The score takes care of itself. The only way to actually win is to get better each day through systematic improvement." Problem number 1 with goal-focused thinking. Achieving a goal is only a momentary change. If you have a messy room and set a goal to clean it, you'll achieve a clean room, for now. But if you maintain the same sloppy habits that created the mess initially, clutter will accumulate again and you'll be hoping for another burst of motivation. You treated a symptom without addressing the cause. When you solve problems at the results level, you solve them only temporarily. True improvement requires solving problems at the systems level. Fix the inputs and the outputs will fix themselves. Problem number 2. Goals restrict your happiness. The implicit assumption behind every goal is once I reach this goal, then I'll be happy. This creates a condition where you're continually postponing happiness until the next milestone. You promise yourself that once you gain 20 pounds of muscle, once your business is featured in the New York Times, then you can finally relax. Furthermore, goals create an either-or conflict. Either you achieve your goal and are successful, or you fail and are a disappointment. You mentally restrict your satisfaction to one scenario, yet your actual path through life will rarely match the exact journey you envisioned. It makes no sense to restrict your satisfaction to one outcome when many paths lead to success. Problem number 3. Goals are at odds with long-term progress. A goal-oriented mindset creates a yo-yo effect. Many runners work hard for months, but the moment they cross the finish line, they stop training. The race is gone and motivation disappears. When all your effort focuses on a particular goal, what remains to push you forward after you achieve it? This is why many people revert to old habits after accomplishing their goals. The purpose of setting goals is to win the game. The purpose of building systems is to continue playing the game. True long-term thinking is actually goal-less thinking. It's not about any single accomplishment. but rather the cycle of endless refinement and continuous improvement. Ultimately, it is your commitment to the process that will determine your progress. The 3 levels of change and identity-based habits. Change happens at 3 distinct levels, like the layers of an onion. The first layer is outcome change, modifying your results. This includes losing weight, publishing a book, winning a championship. Most goals you set are associated with outcome-level change. The second layer is process change, modifying your habits and systems. This includes implementing new gym routines, decluttering your workspace, developing meditation practices. Most habits you build operate at this level. The third and deepest layer is identity change, modifying your beliefs about yourself. This concerns your worldview, your self-image, your beliefs about how you should behave. Most of your core beliefs and biases operate here. Most people approach habit change working backward from outcomes. They decide they want to be skinny, outcome, and believe that following a diet process will make them thin. Yet they never examine the identity beliefs driving this process. They don't shift how they view themselves, and therein lies the problem. Behavior that conflicts with your self-image will not last. You might want more money, but if your identity is that of a consumer rather than a creator, you'll continue spending rather than earning. You might want better health, but if you still prioritize comfort over accomplishment, you'll be drawn toward relaxation rather than exercise. True behavior change is identity change. The transformation only lasts when the new behavior becomes part of who you are. You might start a habit because of motivation, but you'll only stick with it if it becomes part of your identity. Anyone can convince themselves to visit the gym or eat healthy once or twice, but without shifting the fundamental belief about who you are, long-term change remains impossible. Consider 2 people offered a cigarette. The first person says, "No thanks, I'm trying to quit." This response maintains the identity of being a smoker, just one trying to be something else. The second person says, "No thanks, I'm not a smoker." This statement signals complete identity shift. Smoking is no longer part of who they are. The difference is subtle yet powerful. The 2-step process for changing your identity is elegantly simple. Step 1. Decide the type of person you want to be. Start with the big picture. What do you want to stand for? What are your principles and values? If unsure, work backward from your desired results. Ask yourself, who is the type of person that could achieve the outcome I want? Who could lose 40 pounds? Who could learn a new language? Who could run a successful business? Who could write a book? That person is probably consistent and reliable. Now your focus shifts from the outcome, writing a book, to the identity, being consistent and reliable. Step 2. Prove it to yourself with small wins. You already have evidence for your current identity based on past behavior. You go to church every Sunday for 20 years, so you have evidence you're religious. You study an hour every night, so you have evidence you're studious. You go to the gym even in snow, so you have evidence you're committed to fitness. The more evidence you accumulate, the stronger you believe the identity. A friend of Clear's lost over 100 pounds by constantly asking herself, what would a healthy person do? Throughout the day, this became her guide. Would a healthy person walk or take a cab? Would a healthy person order a burrito or a salad? She acted like a healthy person long enough that she became one. Every action you take is a vote for the type of person you want to become. No single action transforms your identity, but as the votes accumulate, so does the evidence. You don't need unanimity, you just need a majority. It's perfectly fine to cast a few votes for bad habits. Just win the majority of the time. The 4 laws of behavior change. Building atomic habits. The foundation of all habit formation rests upon understanding the habit loop, a 4-step neurological cycle that runs constantly throughout your life. In 1898, psychologist Edward Thorndike conducted groundbreaking experiments with cats placed in puzzle boxes. To escape, cats had to press a lever opening a door to reach food. Initially, cats moved randomly, but gradually they learned to associate the lever press with escape and reward. After 20 to 30 trials, the behavior became automatic. Cats solved the puzzle in seconds. Thorndike noted that one cat required 160 seconds on its first escape attempt but just 6 to 7 seconds by the final attempt. He concluded, behaviors followed by satisfying consequences tend to be repeated, and those that produce unpleasant consequences are less likely to be repeated. This principle, established over a century ago, remains the foundation for everything we understand about habits today. The habit loop consists of 4 stages: cue, craving, response, and reward. The crucial insight here is that all behavior is driven by the desire to solve a problem. Sometimes the problem is noticing something good that you want to obtain. Sometimes the problem is experiencing pain you want to relieve. Either way, every habit exists to solve recurring problems in your environment. The cue is the trigger that initiates behavior. It's information predicting a reward. Your prehistoric ancestors paid attention to cues signaling primary rewards like food and water. Today you focus on cues predicting secondary rewards: money, status, approval, love, personal satisfaction. Your mind continuously analyzes your environment for hints about where rewards might be located. The craving is the motivational force behind every habit. Without motivation or desire, without craving change, you have no reason to act. A crucial insight here is that you don't crave the habit itself. You crave the change and state it delivers. You don't crave smoking a cigarette. You crave the relief it provides. You're not motivated by brushing your teeth. You're motivated by feeling a clean mouth. You don't want to turn on television. You want entertainment. Cravings differ person to person. For a gambler, slot machine sounds trigger intense desire. For someone who doesn't gamble, those same sounds are background noise. Cues are meaningless until interpreted through your thoughts, feelings, and emotions. The response is the actual habit you perform, the thought or action itself. Whether a response occurs depends on your motivation level and the friction associated with the behavior. If an action requires more effort than you're willing to expend, you won't do it. Your response also depends on your ability. You cannot dunk a basketball if you cannot jump high enough to reach the hoop. No matter how motivated you are, the reward is the end goal of every habit, serving 2 critical purposes. First, rewards satisfy your craving. They deliver the change and internal state you desired. Second, rewards teach your brain which actions are worth remembering. Your brain is constantly monitoring which actions satisfy desires and deliver pleasure. These feelings of pleasure and disappointment provide feedback, helping your brain distinguish useful actions from useless ones. If any of the 4 stages is insufficient, the behavior won't become a habit. Eliminate the cue and your habit never starts. Reduce the craving and you lack enough motivation to act. Make the behavior difficult and you can't perform it. If the reward fails to satisfy, you have no reason to repeat it in the future. The first law, make it obvious. The human brain is a prediction machine. It continuously analyzes your surroundings, taking in information and extracting patterns. A paramedic can observe a face and predict an impending heart attack despite being unable to articulate exactly what she noticed. Her brain has learned to recognize blood distribution pattern changes. Military analysts can distinguish enemy missiles from friendly aircraft on radar despite identical appearance. Museum curators can spot counterfeit art. These experts have encoded lessons through experience into their automatic perception. You don't need conscious awareness of a cue for a habit to begin. You can notice an opportunity and take action without dedicating conscious attention to it. This is what makes habits useful but also dangerous. As habits form, your actions fall under automatic and non-conscious control. You fall into old patterns before realizing what's happening. You likely never consciously notice that you tie the same shoe first every morning, that you always change into comfortable clothes upon arriving home, or that you finish other people's sentences. Over time, the cues triggering habits become so common they become essentially invisible. The treats on your kitchen counter, the remote next to your couch, the phone in your pocket, our responses become so deeply encoded that the urge seems to come from nowhere. For this reason, you must begin behavior change with awareness. Before building new habits, understand your current ones. As psychologist Carl Jung said, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. The Habits Scorecard is a practical tool for raising awareness. The Japanese railway system uses a safety protocol called pointing and calling. Conductors point at objects and call out information as trains operate. When approaching a signal, they point and say, "Signal is green." As trains leave stations, they point at speedometers and call out exact speed. Platform workers point along platform edges declaring "all clear." This simple practice reduces errors by 85% and cuts accidents by 30%. New York's MTA adopted a point-only version and saw incidents of incorrectly berthed subways fall 57% within 2 years. Why does pointing and calling work? It raises awareness from non-conscious habit to conscious recognition. Because operators must use eyes, hands, mouth, and ears, they notice problems before they occur. Similarly, you can use a written habits scorecard. Each morning, list your daily habits and honestly note whether you do them. Mark each with a plus. If it's a good habit you want to encourage, a minus. If it's a bad habit you want to break, or an equals sign. For neutral habits, don't judge yourself, simply notice. This awareness is the foundation for change. Implementation intention is another powerful first law tool. This involves deciding in advance when and where you'll perform a desired habit by creating specific if-then statements. Research shows that people who create implementation intentions exercise more regularly and consistently. The specificity matters, not just I'll exercise, but if it is 7 a.m. on Monday, Wednesday, Friday, then I will go to the gym. You're pre-deciding the behavior, removing the need to muster willpower later. Habit stacking is a technique where you attach a new habit to an existing one, creating a sequence. If you already have a morning coffee routine, you might stack meditation onto it. After I pour my morning coffee, I will meditate for 2 minutes. The existing habit becomes the cue for the new behavior. You can also stack habits using location. After I close my laptop at the end of the workday, I will move to my workout area and exercise. Quote, the second law, make it attractive. Cravings are the motivational force behind habits. Without them, you lack reason to act. Understanding what makes habits attractive is therefore critical. The second law of behavior change states, make it attractive. Your brain's reward system operates through dopamine, not pleasure itself, but the anticipation of reward. The author illustrates this through examples of engineered foods. Food manufacturers spend millions researching the precise combination of salt, sugar, and fat that creates what they call the bliss point, the exact amount that produces maximum craving. Processed foods feature dynamic contrast, meaning they combine different sensations, crunchy and smooth, sweet and salty, that keep your brain engaged. They also optimize oral sensation, the way food feels in your mouth, to maximize pleasure. Supernormal stimuli are exaggerated versions of natural cues that trigger extreme responses. Experiments with birds revealed that herring gulls prefer to peck at artificial eggs larger and brighter than real eggs. Greylag geese prefer to retrieve painted eggs over their own. These exaggerated versions hijack reward systems that evolved for natural stimuli. Modern technology creates supernormal stimuli, social media notifications, video games, processed foods, that exploit reward systems in ways nature never intended. Temptation bundling is a powerful technique for making habits more attractive. It means pairing a habit you need with one you want. If you enjoy Netflix but need to exercise, you watch Netflix only while at the gym. If you love gossiping with friends but need to write, you meet friends only after completing your writing goal. This principle comes from David Premack's research showing that high-probability behaviors, those you enjoy, can reinforce low-probability behaviors, those you avoid. Create if-then statements like, after I finish my workout, I will watch my favorite show. Social influence profoundly shapes habits. Research by Solomon Asch demonstrated that people conform to group opinion even when obviously wrong. He showed subjects lines of obviously different lengths and asked which matched a reference line. When Confederates gave wrong answers, subjects conformed about 1/3 of the time. We imitate behaviors of three groups: the close, family and friends; the many, society generally; and the powerful, those with status and authority. Humans naturally gravitate toward behaviors practiced by those close to us. You adopt the habits of people you spend time with. This is why environment matters enormously. A point worth remembering: motivation is overrated. Environment often matters more. You cannot will yourself to exercise if your environment makes it impossible. Place a treadmill in your living room and exercise becomes easy. Leave it in the garage and it becomes friction-filled. The third law: make it easy. Most people think they lack discipline when they struggle with habits. The truth is often different. They've made the desired behavior too difficult. The third law of behavior change states: make it easy. The principle underlying this law comes from physics. Energy follows the path of least resistance. Human behavior follows the same principle. We naturally gravitate toward options requiring least effort. This explains why removing friction from desired behaviors is so powerful. John Henry Patterson, born in Dayton, Ohio in 1844, opened a coal supply store in the mid-1800s. His employees were stealing, which was common in an era before video cameras or modern accounting. Patterson discovered James Ritty's new invention, the incorruptible cashier, the first cash register. The machine automatically locked cash and receipts after each transaction. Patterson bought two for $50 each, and theft vanished overnight. Within 6 months, his business went from losing money to earning $5,000 in profit, equivalent to over $100,000 today. The brilliance of the cash register was that it automated ethical behavior by making stealing practically impossible. Rather than trying to change employees' values, it made the preferred behavior automatic. Patterson was so impressed he bought the rights and founded the National Cash Register Company, which became one of the most successful businesses of its era. The 2-minute rule is a practical implementation of the third law. The rule states, when you start a new habit, it should take less than 2 minutes to do. Not your ultimate goal, but the starting point. You don't aim to write a book, you aim to write 2 sentences. You don't aim to run a marathon, you aim to put on your running shoes. You don't aim to meditate for 30 minutes, you aim to meditate for 2 minutes. The point here is powerful. The point of habit stacking isn't necessarily to complete it, but to make it automatic. Once something becomes automatic, you can improve it. The 2-minute rule removes the friction that prevents you from starting. Most habit failure happens not because you lack discipline but because the initial barrier feels too high. Making the first step trivially easy gets you past this barrier. One-time actions deserve special attention. These are single decisions that then lock in good behavior going forward. They require effort up front but create value forever. Installing a cash register, as Patterson did, prevents theft automatically. Buying a water filter makes hydration automatic. Using smaller plates reduces caloric intake automatically. Getting a dog increases daily activity automatically. Enrolling in an automatic savings plan ensures financial discipline automatically. These one-time choices compound in value infinitely. The fourth law: make it satisfying. The final law addresses why you repeat habits. What is rewarded is repeated. What is punished is avoided. Your brain is constantly monitoring which actions satisfy your desires and deliver pleasure. These feelings, pleasure and disappointment, comprise the feedback mechanism helping your brain distinguish useful actions from useless ones. In Karachi, Pakistan, in the late 1990s, public health worker Stephen Luby confronted a dire situation. Over 9 million people lived in one of the world's least livable cities. 60% of residents lived in slums with no waste removal. no electricity grid, no clean water. Contaminated water caused epidemics of diarrhea, vomiting, and abdominal pain. Nearly 1/3 of children were malnourished. Luby and his team recognized that simple handwashing could dramatically improve health in this environment. Yet despite knowledge of handwashing's importance, people didn't consistently practice it. Some washed hands hastily, others washed only one hand. Many forgot before preparing food. The problem wasn't knowledge, it was consistency. That's when Luby partnered with Procter & Gamble to supply the neighborhood with Safeguard soap. Compared to standard soap, using Safeguard was more enjoyable. It foamed easily, lathered well, smelled pleasant. Handwashing became slightly more pleasurable. Within months, results were dramatic. Diarrhea rates fell 52%, pneumonia 58%, impetigo 35%. 6 years later, researchers found 95% of households maintained handwashing stations with soap. Residents had become so habituated to the practice that they sustained it without continued prompting. The key was making the behavior satisfying. Pleasure teaches your brain, this feels good, do this again next time. Chewing gum illustrates this principle. Despite commercial availability throughout the 1800s, it didn't become widespread until Wrigley launched in 1891 with flavorful varieties, spearmint and juicy fruit, making it tasty and fun. Consumption skyrocketed. Similarly, toothpaste success came when manufacturers added flavors, spearmint, peppermint, cinnamon, creating a fresh mouth feeling. These flavors don't improve effectiveness, they simply make brushing more pleasurable. Immediate gratification versus delayed consequences creates a fundamental challenge. Our brains evolved in environments where consequences were immediate. Eat poisoned food, get sick quickly, do something dangerous, face immediate danger. Modern life delivers delayed consequences. Eat unhealthy today, the scale doesn't move much. Work late ignoring family, they forgive you. Procrastinate on projects, you'll usually finish later, yet your brain still responds more strongly to immediate consequences. Habit tracking provides an immediate consequence. Research shows that the act of tracking progress itself motivates behavior change. Jerry Seinfeld famously uses a wall calendar where he puts an X for each day he writes. His goal is never breaking the chain. This creates immediate visual feedback. You track not because you'll remember anyway, but because the tracking itself becomes rewarding. Each X becomes satisfying proof that you followed your system. A habit contract creates accountability by establishing consequences. Brian Harris, an entrepreneur, wrote a contract between himself, his wife, and his personal trainer committing to eat correctly in Q1 2017. If he failed, he had to pay his trainer $500. The immediate financial consequence made the behavior attractive through accountability. Advanced tactics. From good to great. Once you've built basic habits using the 4 laws, you can employ advanced tactics to reach excellence. The Goldilocks rule explains why we stay motivated. We need challenges in the sweet spot. Not too easy, not too impossible, but just right. Talent matters, but less than you think. Genes influence success, providing tendencies and predispositions. 2 swimmers of identical height and build might differ in buoyancy and lung capacity due to genetics, yet environment and training matter enormously. The crucial insight here is that genetics determines your ceiling and floor, your upper and lower potential limits. Your daily habits determine where between those limits you'll operate. Genes provide raw material. Habits build the finished product. The downside of creating good habits is worth noting. Habits automate behavior, which is usually desirable but can become problematic. The more automatic a habit becomes, the less aware you are of it. You might develop habits that were once useful but no longer serve you. You need continuous reflection and willingness to adapt. Progress requires unlearning old habits and upgrading your identity continuously. Recap: the principles that endure. As we approach the end of this comprehensive summary, a point worth remembering. All the strategies and tactics in this book rest upon several foundational principles that remain constant regardless of circumstance. First, Identity is everything. You cannot sustain behavior change without shifting your identity. External goals won't keep you motivated forever. Identity provides intrinsic motivation that lasts. Every action casts a vote for who you're becoming. Winning the majority of those votes gradually transforms identity, which then makes aligned behavior automatic. Second, systems beat goals. Goals set direction, but systems create progress. Winners and losers often share identical goals. What differentiates them is their system. When you implement the 4 laws correctly, good habits emerge naturally and bad habits wither away. You don't need perfect willpower if your system is right. Third, the compound effect is patient. The crucial insight here is that the most powerful outcomes are always delayed. You cross plateaus of latent potential, where nothing visible happens, yet you're storing value beneath the surface. Breakthroughs arrive suddenly only after months of invisible accumulation. Patience and persistence through these plateaus distinguish those who succeed from those who quit. Fourth, environment shapes behavior. As a public health worker observed in Pakistan, changing soap, changing environment, changed behavior faster than any education campaign. Yet people fail to redesign their environments. You cannot rely on willpower if your environment makes desired behavior difficult and undesired behavior easy. Invest in your environment. Remove friction from good habits. Add friction to bad ones. Fifth, feedback loops are everything. Habits form through feedback. You try, you fail, you learn, you try differently. Your brain continuously scans, predicts, responds, and learns. Small changes in any part of this loop create cascading effects. This is why making incremental improvements compounds. 6. Start incredibly small. Most people fail at habit formation because they attempt too much change too fast. The 2-minute rule isn't the final goal. It's the barrier remover. Get started, then improve gradually. Consistency beats intensity every time. Small wins compound into extraordinary results. 7. Track your progress. What gets measured gets managed. The act of tracking itself provides immediate feedback and motivation. A calendar with daily X's provides visceral evidence of consistency. Even imperfect tracking beats no tracking. Closing remarks. Your potential awaits throughout this audiobook summary. You've encountered a central recurring message. You do not rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your systems. James Clear's transformation from coma patient to academic All-American. British cycling's rise from obscurity to Olympic dominance. The elimination of disease in Pakistani slums through soap innovation. These weren't flukes. They were inevitable results of implementing systems that leverage the 4 laws. Make it obvious, make it attractive, make it easy, and make it satisfying. The crucial insight that should resonate as you complete this summary is this. Small changes are not about being better at one area of your life. They're about being slightly better across many areas. Productivity compounds, knowledge compounds, relationships compound, health compounds. When you improve multiple areas simultaneously using atomic habits, the cumulative effect becomes extraordinary. You now understand why habits matter. They matter not because they can get you better external results, though they absolutely can. They matter fundamentally because they change your beliefs about yourself. Habits are the channel through which you develop your deepest beliefs. When you repeatedly write, you become a writer. When you repeatedly practice, you become a musician. When you repeatedly encourage others, you become a leader. Quite literally, you become your habits. As you apply these principles in your own life, remember that perfection isn't the goal. You don't need to implement all 4 laws perfectly simultaneously. Start with one, master it, add another. The compound effect of small improvements will carry you to places you cannot yet imagine. You have the power to change your beliefs about yourself. Your identity is not fixed. You have a choice in every moment. You can choose which identity you want to reinforce today with the habits you choose today. Your habits are the path to the person you wish to become. The busiest professionals who listen to this summary during commutes often tell us that the most transformative insight is the simplest. Focus on systems, not goals. Focus on who you want to become, not what you want to achieve. Focus on the process, not the outcome. When you align these elements, when you design systems that make good habits inevitable and bad habits impossible, extraordinary results follow naturally. Begin today. Choose one habit, one small change. Implement one of the 4 laws. Track your progress over days and weeks and months. As you repeat this small behavior, you'll accumulate evidence. Evidence that you're capable of change. Evidence that you're moving toward your ideal identity. Evidence that marginal gains compound into remarkable results. That small change you make today cascades into tomorrow, next week, next month, next year. You're not trying to become a fundamentally different person overnight. You're voting daily for the person you wish to become. You're casting ballots through small decisions, and as votes accumulate, identity shifts. As identity shifts, behavior becomes automatic. As behavior becomes automatic, results become inevitable. The crucial insight to take with you is this: your potential is not some fixed destination you either reach or fail to reach. Your potential is infinite, constrained only by your identity and your systems. Build atomic habits, and you build the systems that unlock that infinite potential. This is the end of book summary of Atomic Habits by James Clear. The narration is brought to you by the Whispering Shelf. Thank you for listening.